Insights, another episode of NRG Insights. And if you haven't listened before, so this is the podcast that we speak to people of influence in the mortgage market, whether that be lenders or brokers or partners or anyone with anything useful to say. And we get their insights into the market and obviously the challenges and wins that they've had to hopefully to add some value to the broker and the lending world. So today I've got Leanne from LendInvest. Thanks for joining me, Leanne.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be on.
Thank you. And so you're Director of Bridging at LendInvest, aren't you? Am I right in saying that? So talk to me about I know you've had a long career there, so talk to me. We'll probably have to do a brief version, but talk to me about your career, your kind of financial services journey and how you got to where you are now.
I'll try and keep it short and sweet. So
Doesn't have to be that short.
yeah,
Right, it's
I
a
was
12-year.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's quite long. So I was studying. I'd be doing some work experience at a law firm. Didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do, but I was interested in property. I know that's cliche, but I was. And then when I was looking to choose a university, sadly my dad passed away, and I wasn't really sure what to do then. You get a bit confused in terms of what avenue to go down.
Yeah.
And luckily for me at that stage, my cousin took me under his wing, and he had a really successful mortgage packager at the time. So he was like, come work for me, you can start earning some money, figure out what you want to do. And this was in 2006, so the subprime mortgage days, self-certification.
Nice, that was the fun time.
Yeah, absolutely booming.
You walked into that going, this is easy, I could do this forever.
Yeah, I was like, this is great. Had like roving underwriters in the office all the time, and still, deal with a lot of those underwriters at various different companies now. BDMs coming in with donuts, and still speaking to a few of those guys now. And I was getting excited. You're completing deals. We had back then this crappy little board, and it had the borrower's name on. You pass it over from inquiries to offer to completed, and every time it got to that completed side, I would get £50 commission, which was a lot to me back then.
Yeah.
So it was quids in, and that drive to get it to completed sort of you get obsessed with it. Back then as well, it was like a huge 3-inch paper files, photocopying everything, filing cabinets everywhere. A lot of the apprentices that are in our office now at LendInvest, they've never witnessed that before.
They've never seen a paper file of people.
Never seen a paper file. Also used really dinosaur systems like Blue Chip back in the day. And I was enjoying making money. Then all of a sudden 2008 come along and there was a crash, and it's quite devastating. My cousin did lose that business, and he went on to HSBC and has done great things thereafter.
Yeah.
And I went on to a really small property investment company, and they were buying large portfolios of loans, refurbishing them. Majority were in the north, and then they would sell them on. And then that was the first time I'd heard about bridging loans. And I thought, what on earth is that? Anyway, coincidentally, a recruiter contacts me and says,
there's the worst.
yeah, they're the worst. That is the best thing that ever happened. So there's this small bridging finance lender that's started up. They've got big aspirations. They're called Montello. They're based in Bank in the city, and I'd not worked in London before. I was like 23, 24 at the time. So I thought, I'll go to the interview. Go in there. The office was the size of this meeting room. Had a tiny little window just to bring some light in, which was nice. And I met with an Englishman, an Irishman, and an Australian. And that's not a joke.
Yeah.
You had like this really eccentric, Australian Christian. He's amazing. I've learnt so much from him. Had Ian, he's the English one, and his knowledge and in this space is just phenomenal. And had the interview. Got round to the second interview. He said, you're up against a few people. We'll be in touch, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, second interview happened and I got it. And I actually think what won it for me, because the job was quite, it's a variety of roles.
As you are with any startup, right? You just got to muck in.
Exactly, which I quite like doing. I get bored doing the same thing. I like a variety. So it's a bit of case management, junior underwriting, loan servicing, speaking to some investors with those guys on the phone, marketing. So it was really, really good. And they actually just started using the system Blue Chip, which I'd used at my cousin's place. And I genuinely think that was the reason why
Because you could
I
do work
probably got
CRM.
the job over the others, because at that stage, everyone was junior that they
Yeah,
were.
yeah, it's hard to pick. If someone knows your CRM system, you're like, well, that's a week's
Well,
less
yeah,
training.
don't exactly, and they didn't know how to use it either. So I think that's probably a tip actually for people that are starting in their career. You really need to explain what you do, what you've done, systems you've used, because that one little bit of information has probably helped
It's
me
massive. It's
get
massive
that
in the
job when
recruitment.
I was
Whenever
24.
we speak to people and we take we take the briefs and discovery calls and that kind of thing,
Yeah,
everyone says like if they could use our system that'd be amazing. Everyone knows
yeah,
that 99% of people can't use your system, but um, yeah, let everyone know what systems you've used and let everyone know
yeah.
what you can do.
And I remember when the recruiter called me and said, "Oh, have you heard of bridging finance?" I thought, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that." Exaggerated what I
Yeah,
learned a little bit of this portfolio company. But yeah, you just have to sell yourself.
yeah,
And as I say, Ian and Christian, the two co-founders, I've learned so much from them. It's instrumental what I've learned working with those guys over the years. Two really strong entrepreneurs. And then you fast forward 12 years, we've moved office 4 times. Went from Lombard Street to Marylebone to the West End, and we're now in Fitzrovia. And yeah, we've got 200 staff, starting from 5 people when I joined. So it's been a roller coaster for
I
sure.
bet. Yeah, so you've seen a lot there, right? So you've gone from
Yeah,
so employee number 3 to 200.
yeah,
That's a hell of a ride. And
yeah,
actually, let's touch on that. Actually, I know I always go off on a tangent, so apologies. But you did mention then
yeah,
about the good
no,
leaders you've got in the office, and that's clear. If you can build an office of 200 people, that's a really impressive business, right?
yeah,
There's not hundreds of businesses that have that kind of level of staff and retention and that kind of thing.
yeah.
What do you think the difference maker is with people like your bosses that uh, can do that? That aren't stunted at the 10-person growth or aren't stunted at the 20-person growth.
Yeah.
What do you think the difference maker is that people will follow them?
Well, I think given their journey, they had to take a lot of risks. Some things didn't work and some things really worked, and they were lucky at stages as well. When they were first starting out, they had a fund, and high net worth investors were investing into that fund for properties in and around London,
Yeah,
and that's how they got going. And it's only when you've built that book up that you then go onto your next sort of fundraising journey. And I think, as I say, it's that entrepreneurial, that drive, and taking risks, because risks do really equal growth. If you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
take the risks and you sort of sit there, you can just carry on. We could have carried on and just been a really good bridging lender, because
yeah,
we are really good at it. But you want to, their dream was to disrupt the market, implement technology, but not only implement it, build it in house.
yeah,
At one stage when we were at 30 people, a third of the business were engineers. And they're extremely different characters
yeah,
to
yeah.
people we work with in the finance industry, which was nice, right? Because you've got, different people. But at the time, we're competing to get really good engineers. You've got the likes of Google, Facebook, all these cool
Yeah,
companies.
yeah, all around the corner. Yeah,
Come work with us. We're going to build a portal or an online platform.
yeah, exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to get them to buy into your journey, right? Same as you do a salesperson,
Cool.
same as you do an underwriter, credit analyst, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They've got to buy into that vision, haven't they?
Well, and talking of culture, that is one thing that we've driven from the outset. Culture is absolutely crucial, and it
Yeah.
still is. And you needed people at the time that were excited, believed, wanted to roll their sleeves up, do a bit of everything. Had some crazy ideas, needed it to be successful to grow to where they wanted it to be. And we tried to keep that culture as well,
That
navigating.
was going to be my question actually because obviously going from 3 to 200 people,
Yeah,
it's so hard to maintain any small business culture. I don't know.
so hard.
I mean, how do you maintain that? Because obviously there's a lot more characters.
Yeah,
They're very different people in there. I know you've all got, and we all believe in buying into the vision of the owners and that kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But it's very, very different when you have to do it. Especially, I mean, we're up to the 10-person stage, and
yeah.
even couldn't imagine how you get as many people to love the business as you do at 20.
Yeah.
So at 200, it blows my mind how you can keep them all in that same culture. You know, the culture that made you so successful at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And especially when we have an office in Glasgow, you've got, double whammy there. You've got to make sure you've got the culture across two offices.
Yeah,
Um, but when you started going from 10, 20, 50, that mark was probably harder than what it is now, because when you're at a company of 200, within your teams and the company direction, it's a bit more corporate and you,
yeah, yeah.
you buy into that. Whereas when you're
How did
going
you
through
cope with that,
growth,
going from a three-man into a corporate? Was it just
yeah,
was it organic, or did you some one day go, God, we're a machine now?
yeah, it was organic. I think the one thing for me that I probably found the hardest throughout is because I'd had such a variety of roles. The bigger that you get, you have to go in one direction.
Yeah,
I can't dabble. I can't do a bit of
yeah,
that,
yeah,
a bit of this. You can't be what's this phrase, master of everything,
yeah. Jack of all
um,
trades. You
jack
can't.
of
Yeah,
all
when you.
trades. So yeah, so you have to go down it. And I knew that I always wanted to stay fortunate, in that short-term lending space. So
Yeah,
I've I've flicked between bridging and development finance, but we work very closely together anyway,
yeah.
because you've got the whole transition of products anyway. But yeah, I guess it was letting go of tasks, focusing on one, and then building your own team. I've watched teams build around, and then all of a sudden you're building your own, and you sort of learn from
I
different
was going to say that how
individuals.
you learn because you weren't a manager when you started, right? You were 23, so
No,
you've had to learn a
no,
lot along the
yeah.
way. But have you done like management type courses and that kind of thing, or has it just been as the business grows, you understand the business, you understand the people?
Yeah, we do lots of management courses here and leadership courses as well. So it takes you through the ranks, and I think that's really important. People that think, "Oh no, I know what I'm doing. I've learned a lot." You haven't. I think
Yeah.
you can
Well, we never
always
know
learn.
what is next. We never know our next step, do we? Because otherwise we would have done it.
And I don't think anyone could have taught us how to navigate COVID and a
Yeah.
lockdown, and, working remotely. So yeah, that training is instrumental. We've actually got a team of one at the moment that makes and strategizes all planning of training across all departments
Oh,
to
really?
make sure it's aligned, because it's important. When you get to as big as we are,
Yeah.
you need to have that training in
And
place.
just in regards to that training, that kind of career growth, has that been kind of putting words into your mouth, but has it been pivotal with their growth of the business? Everyone knows what can happen next. Do you know what I mean? If
Yeah,
you if you're in that system where you know you can be trained to do something, you always know. Well, it's good for retention, right?
yeah, of course. I mean, at the time, talking about growth and career when I'd first joined, I don't think they really knew, because they
No.
wasn't sure which way it would go. But they're like, look, we're going to support you. You've been there from the beginning. Whatever you want to get into, we'll back you all the way. Obviously, they'd give me tips and say, we think you're doing really well in this vision. This is what you could end up. Um, and I probably did take that on board, and that's where we've come to. Um, just going back on that culture question that you asked, which I didn't sort of answer directly,
It's probably because I
but
butted
how
in.
you
Sorry, I do it all the
keep,
time.
but how you keep that culture going. We did things like we make them part of the journey. We'd have a company update every
Yeah.
single week, and it would be someone around the business that would give an update on their department, what they're doing, what they've learned, or you'd get an external in, and that would make everyone in the office sit together and have their lunch together.
Right.
Um, Alongside that, sort of, we called it a brown bag. Alongside that brown bag, you then put on some lunch as well in the kitchen. So everyone would mix, and everyone would be chatting. We'd have away days and training days. You've got office vibes, to continually get feedback.
Yeah.
So you do lots of initiatives like that to try and keep that aligned.
And how do you like when does that start? Because obviously you've been there since from 3 to 200. When do you start
Yeah.
that? Is that something that's always happened, or have you? Is it like at particular points in the business have you start to add more to it? Because
Yeah,
some
well, I
people will
mean,
have like 20, 30 people and do nothing and do none of those things. You
yeah.
know?
I mean, when we were only sort of 10, 20 people, we didn't have a HR department. So it'd be a bit of like
Amazing.
brainstorming in a room, like, oh, Christian, very strong Australian, be like, oh yeah, we've got this new starter. Will you look after them? I'd be like, yeah, okay. And then you'd sort of just like
Just do
walk them
it.
around the office, yeah, walk them around the office, and go through what we're going to do, and then we'd often have drinks after work, and that social element, which really helps, because people let their hair down a bit more, don't they?
Yeah.
and you
There's
get
not
to
too
know
much.
that person a bit more than the formal interview
Yeah.
at the start.
But that's been helpful. Do you still follow that process now? Or is it a bit
Yeah, we
more
try to.
onboarding, HR driven?
It's very much onboarding. They take it really seriously, that onboarding process.
But
And
I
it's
think that,
important.
it's the majority of when we get people contact us when they've been at
Yeah,
a company not very long, the majority of them feel like they were missold the job. And I think that
really.
comes from a poor onboarding because
Yeah,
I don't think anyone's lying in the interviews. I don't think you're doing
no.
that. I just think that I think people have got onboarding wrong. I don't think we take it as seriously. Once someone's accepted an offer, they're like, oh, brilliant. Like
Yeah, well,
that's the kind of end of it. But
I think it starts beyond then as well, right? You need to make sure whoever's interviewing is telling that candidate the right thing. If you've got all of a sudden you've got 20 odd managers across the company, you need to make sure you're all aligned, and we need this role for this. These are the potential grades. This is the job advert. And if you're not telling them what you
yeah,
should
what
be
it is.
interviewing, and then they join, that's a concern. Probably goes back round to the interviewee.
Yeah. Do you know,
And the,
we do a good thing with a lot of clients that, not selling our services here, just do the
yeah,
behavioural testing on the job. So if you've got
yeah,
three line managers involved in it, you all do the test as though as though you're looking at that job. And
yeah,
you'll be surprised because all three managers sometimes come back with three different people that they want. But if they're all
yeah. It
involved in the
does.
interview process, you think, so we need to align what you actually need first rather than that guy wants someone really analytical, but actually that guy wants someone really emotionally and kind of, and someone else wants someone really sales driven. I think you'll be surprised unless you have that constant feedback to each other and making sure you're
Yeah.
aligning your visions. People don't even know to speak to them. Go, no wonder you can't find someone for that role. You're all looking for a different person.
Yeah, definitely. And also when people join now, they get, the first week, they're going around and they're meeting heads of departments to make sure that they're introduced properly,
Yeah,
especially if you're going to be spending a lot of time working with that group. This is what we do. And we used to do we'd have like volunteers, and they would take out the newbies for a coffee in the morning just to do that bit of intro. And the bamboo, we like to embarrass them by saying, introduce yourselves, what's the funniest thing you've done, what's this that you've done, just to
oh,
get a
I
bit
hate
of.
those. They make me cringe. They are.
I know, and you read them, you're like, oh God.
Do they do it? They write it, do they?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
But then
right, I thought
once
you
you,
meant they stand up and do it, and that makes me cringe if
no,
they have to
not
stand up
stand
and
up.
like tell a
No.
joke, and I'm like, that's mean.
Oh, it's well, I remember someone telling me when they joined Metro Bank and then they came here, and they was like, oh God, we had to do a dance around the office. They put the
Yeah.
music on and we danced around. I thought, oh yeah, we're not going to do that to you. Not
I don't
today.
understand. I suppose like it breaks down. So I play a lot of sport, and that's normal in sports
Yeah,
clubs, right? You go to a new sports club, you stand up and
yeah,
you sing a song or whatever. But in business, I feel like it's just a bit. It's not bullying, but I know it's maybe breaks down the barriers. But some people will love it,
yeah.
and some people, even if you're an extrovert or a perceived extrovert, that sort of thing makes me cringe. Would make me not want to join someone. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's
yeah, definitely. Definitely. The thought of doing that, I'd be like, the night before, it's bad enough when you join a new job, let alone you've got to do a
yeah.
dance around the office.
Yeah, just so it's not
Yeah.
just in case it's not hard enough, and tell a joke to
Yeah,
like 200 people.
yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Um,
So let's talk about over that kind of time period that you've worked at. And what are the big changes you've seen in the bridging world? I'm assuming more competition, but
yeah,
what
God.
what else have you seen that's really kind of that'll strike a chord with people just in that 12 years of bridging? What are the big things you think, or the challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when we first did it, we would do some really quirky loans. We'd just started out. I think we were completing 5 bridging loans a month. When there were 5 of us in the office, and
Yeah,
that we were like, yeah, that's great. And
nailing
oh, look at
it.
the big deal that we've done. And then they would go horribly wrong, and you think, oh God, we've learnt a mistake from that. Let's not do that again.
Yeah,
Um, I think we used to have, I was laughing with someone earlier, we used to have marketing on all of our merchandise. If it's not done in 2 weeks, it's just not bridging. And that was our motto, right? Early days. We'd be like, you can get it done in 2 weeks, it's really quick and easy. Yes, it's expensive, but it's bridging the gap,
yeah,
blah,
yeah,
blah. And actually, we used to do a lot of loans, in a fortnight. If everyone was aligned in terms of the lawyers,
yeah, yeah.
you could get it done quickly. But the
I
average,
just think speed is not the USP for. I know you would have changed that over the years, but
no,
speed's not the USP,
it,
is it? Because bridges are fast. That's the nature of them.
yeah, yeah, it's but back then, when there were less lenders
Yeah, yeah.
around, like, oh yeah, this is our this is our USP. You fast forward now and looking at the ASTL, which is now called the BDLA, the average loan turnaround is nearing 60 days. Why is that? Well, it's a number of things, isn't it? It's the you need
Legals.
to get the valuation aligned, you need to get the lawyers aligned as well. We've recently just launched dual reps, so we're hoping up to certain loan sizes and residential only. That will speed that up because a lot of lenders have been doing that and we haven't for a
Yeah.
while. So it's testing the water throughout. The risk mitigations change throughout those 12 years. Have an appetite for commercial, you don't. You have an appetite for more residential, you don't. Refurbishment, it goes up and
Yeah, yeah.
down. And I think with us, we're very nimble and we like to think we're really quick and advanced and be prepared for what's coming ahead.
So how do you stay ahead of the game? If there's because you're not like a small machine now, you still got
No,
you're not like as easy to pivot as a as a 10-man band type situation. How do you stay in
no.
front?
We've got a really, really strong capital markets team, which Hugo runs for us. It's capital markets and treasury team, and their sole job is obviously raising capital
Yep.
and making sure it's the best in the market that we can achieve, but also being ahead of the curve in times of macro and microeconomic changes.
And do they loop you in quite? Do they loop
Yeah,
people in the business? Yeah, so everyone's aware of
yeah,
like where money comes from.
everyone's
Because I have this
aware.
conversation with people like,
Yeah,
I fear for half people in the business, especially when we've gone through these tougher times, because no one
yeah,
really cared before. And then when
yeah,
and you have to explain to customers why things are more expensive. Or
yeah,
I don't think half, especially on the broking side of things, if I'm honest, the ones you
yeah.
spoke to who moaned about the lenders increasing the
Interest
interest
rates.
rates, I don't think they really got it. I don't think half of them didn't understand what happens with the capital markets
No.
and why money costs what it costs. Do you
Well,
think there's a
and
bigger education piece on that?
a huge education piece, and also, we're a lender. Well, obviously, we want to lend.
Yeah.
We have huge targets. I get asked
Yeah, I
every.
always think that when you see people moaning on LinkedIn going, that's what they do
Yeah,
for a living, by the way. They don't not
yeah,
want to spend
yeah.
money. Because if they don't
Like
lend, they
trust,
don't do anything.
yeah, and trust me when I say we want to be able to do every deal, but sometimes that risk is just it outweighs what we can physically do at that time. And our funding, that's evolved massively over time. We've raised money from huge institutional lines. We've got a variety of those. As we got bigger, we got a portfolio of loans and issued bonds. So we get a rating agency and issue
Yeah.
them and take those property loans to sell to investors. We've also got private individuals, family office, high net worth individuals on a self-select platform. So we've got a really, really diverse and strong funding line.
Has that helped you over the last couple of years when
Oh,
things weren't
massively.
just weren't as simple?
I mean, the capital markets team really pulled it out of the bag. Just before COVID, they did a securitization, and it was just before the mortgage deferral payments came in.
Oh, nice.
So that, we started
But this
COVID
is when they earn their
with,
money, though, isn't it?
yeah,
Because a few years before, they're like, yeah, money's cheap. It's going on.
yeah. Well, we started COVID, thankfully, with ample cash in the bank.
Amazing.
You never know how long it's going to last for because we were like, oh my God, what is this new world? But
Yeah.
we
How did
started
you how
COVID
did you
really
navigate
strong.
through the COVID side of things? Because for us as recruiters,
Yeah,
although all of our clients were really really busy because the market
yeah,
wasn't that bad, we really struggled because people didn't know how to work from home yet. They hadn't even sorted the systems out, let alone how to recruit and work from home. So
yeah,
although we were constantly on the phone, kind of telling everyone everything's going to be all right, we're
yeah,
actually business wise. We took a
yeah,
bit of a hit, and everyone assumed we were busy because our customers were busy. But it was
yeah.
just a new normal that we could, no one could function doing what they're doing at the moment without adding to it. How's it for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was really scary. I remember being told, saying, right, need to go home. You're going to be back in 2 weeks. And I thought, yeah, right. I've left half my stuff in the locker. And I thought, we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah,
How bad can it be? But no, we weren't. And fortunately, because, we were a fintech startup, everyone was on laptops. Everyone works off of a Mac or a Dell.
yeah,
Everyone's in the cloud on the VPN. We can still send transactions from, the capital markets team with their widgets and everything from
yeah.
home. So we were really lucky that when we said work from home,
You could straight
it,
away.
it just worked. The only thing that you had to navigate more so was making sure everyone had the relevant logins to actually get on the systems. But that was sorted out very, very quickly. And then you're just making sure everyone's okay, because everyone's living conditions were different.
I was going to say that
Some
actually. That was
loved,
like the main thing, wasn't it? Just checking in on
yeah,
people.
yeah, like some loved it. I mean, I got sick of quizzes. I don't know about you, but it was like a quiz
Bloody Zoom
every
quizzes,
week,
yeah.
wasn't it?
That's mad when you
Yeah,
look back now. Oh, you just got dressed, did a fancy dress in my house and did a quiz with some
yeah,
friends,
right. No.
which is
Yeah,
weird.
dressing up.
Weird.
Yeah, but a lot of lenders, it took them a lot longer to be able to work remotely, because at that time we didn't have a huge, um, massive, engine machine where everyone was on like old computers.
Yeah,
So it was very swift for us. And actually, we had a period during COVID where we really was sweeping up in terms of the deals, and it was the busiest we've ever been.
yeah.
We put people on furlough, and we had to take some people off because where some
You're
lenders had
busy.
just closed down just for that short period of time. But it's amazing how fickle brokers can be, because as soon as everyone else opened up, it did, went
Yeah, it
back to
dies
normal.
out a bit then, yeah.
But I look at those record months, and I'm like, oh wow, let's
Yeah,
get back
they could have
without
carried on.
COVID. Yeah, yeah,
But it was a weird time though, wasn't it? It was a weird time for
yeah.
brokers as well.
It
It's just a
really
strange, strange time. And obviously you navigated through it fairly well.
Yeah, yeah, we did. Like I say, obviously it has its challenges, doesn't it? And more so around the people. Given that we do the monthly and weekly brown bags company updates, we were still doing them from home.
Right.
Trying to encourage people, hoping they're not sitting in their pajamas all day feeling low, trying to get them motivated to still learn, and
Yeah.
trying to do as many Zoom calls without it becoming unbearable, and letting people get on with their job at the
That's
same
the other
time.
thing, isn't it? You want to kind of check in on people, but they also need to, some people need more help than
Yeah,
others, and some people just want to crack
yeah.
on, and some people are. The working from home thing for me, I mean, am I right in saying you're hybrid
I'm
model
what,
at the moment?
sorry?
Do you work for,
No,
are
so
you,
I do 4 days in the office,
right. But as a
and
company though, you're hybrid
we're
type,
hybrid, yeah. So everyone has to do 3 days.
right?
So it's 3 days in the office and 2 days working from home. And recently done sort of a desk zoning, because when people come in, I don't want the salesperson there underwriting
Underwrite,
really
yeah,
nervous.
yeah,
You want them to be, the purpose of coming in is because you can bounce off of each other. I love being
yeah.
in the office because I need to work with people around
So
me
you
and
got baby.
bouncing ideas. And well, and I just
I'm
feel like
joking.
you get more done, don't
Yeah, yeah.
you? Yeah,
I'm
it
the
gives
same.
me
So
a
I'm
great,
in the office 5 days a week, but we have a hybrid model.
yeah,
But I'm seeing different people every day, so it's nice. I
yeah,
love being around the people that I wanted to
yeah,
work with. That's why I employed them. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I also
And we obviously
appreciate that
speak
we would
to
potentially
people.
lose people if we can't offer,
I
slightly
know
more flexible
it's a
working.
balancing act, isn't it? We say to people, obviously you can come in 5 days. The office is open constantly,
Yeah,
but you won't be surprised that people are doing
I think
three.
it's really difficult in the city when, if I forget to get my train ticket, it's 120 quid to get to work.
Yeah,
It's a lot
I
of
know.
dough, and so if I'm on a average salary, if that's twice a week, it's a lot of cash. So I do think there's a
Yeah,
slight saving. I don't think we save on the don't save on the commuter stuff anymore. Like you buy in bulk before and you save money because no one's in 5 days a
yeah,
week. We we
yeah,
seem to be paying more for travel,
yeah,
but it's
yeah, exactly.
but I do love
But
having people
it's
around, and I love having other people to bounce off, and that
oh,
you just can't
for
collaborate at
sure.
home. I think, and
You
it's
can't. It's not the same, and especially the sales environment that we're in, and underwriting and credit. Like to have a healthy debate with credit. Really test them in terms of
healthy
why can't
debate
we
is a
do
nice
this?
sales
Okay,
politically correct word.
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I'll leave that one. But
Yeah,
I think you need that, and
yeah.
I always say the mentality that I want between our underwriting and sales teams is that how could we make this deal work for bridging? What would make you comfortable with it? Obviously,
Yeah.
we're not going to do
That's
absolute
the magic of
best,
underwriting. It's just being
of
commercially
course.
aware of
Yeah,
doesn't stack up the way you're selling it to me
yeah.
right now. However,
Yeah.
that's what,
Well,
and that's
well,
same as
bridging's
compliance
not
in anything.
tick
That's just about it's a commercial awareness rather than just that. No,
Yeah. Well, and bridging's not tick box, is it? Unlike buy-to-let and homeowner mortgages, where it is very
yeah,
strict in terms
yeah.
of criteria, bridging can be a bit more flexible. So,
So you're constantly
yeah.
pushing that.
Yeah, yeah. And then I do juggling the baby when I get home.
So, let's talk about that actually, because that's quite interesting to
Yeah.
us. So you've just come off maternity leave or back a
Yeah.
month ago.
Yes. Yeah. I had Milo on the 4th of September. and I returned to work on the 20th of May. So he was just under 9 months. That was the right time for me. I
Yeah.
sort of had that as a goal. It was the longest time I've not worked for.
Is it?
And you're also thinking, oh God, what am I missing out on? And the world's
Well,
gone
that's what I wanted
crazy.
to kind of touch on, because maternity is like, some people get it right, some people get it wrong, right? We don't, and we don't know, and we are in a world of middle-aged men making decisions, so they just don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what do you think you guys did right, and what would you advise people on when it comes to like coming back to work? Because we were talking before, weren't we,
Yeah,
about that kind
yeah.
of that strange feeling of having to go back somewhere where you've been, although you've been
So
there years,
weird.
it's still
Yeah.
a bit weird for you. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do companies combat that for women coming back to work?
Yeah, so LendInvest are really, really supportive with that, which
Yeah, you got
is
to
a
say
tick
that.
box. Yeah, but they genuinely are. And I think, Ian and Rod, who's the now CEO, they've got children themselves, and, both their wives have worked and they understand it. So
Yeah.
that also helps. And it's the longest time I'd not worked for, and you're anxious about leaving work,
Yeah.
and you try to do all your handovers and make sure you split your role into 5, and you're hoping it sort of continues,
It just comes back
without
again.
someone constantly nagging and banging the drum, which I'm quite good at. Um, and then when you're off, you're obviously, it's a really challenging time. You're trying to keep this little human alive.
Yeah.
Um,
It's the fun
sometimes you
bit.
just, I get
They don't do
myself
much at the beginning either, do they?
yeah, don't
Just
do
sort of
much,
stare
just
at them for
cry.
hours.
Yeah, cry. Milo, he was like awake every hour until he was 4.5 months,
Oh
every
gosh.
single hour.
Really?
And it was draining. Yeah, really draining. I'm like, oh my God,
So
when does
work was a
this finish?
godsend for you. You came back.
Yeah. Well, I was like, enough is enough, and I actually, one of my best friends, her auntie's a baby sleep trainer.
Yeah.
So I was like, Joss, I need your help. And she tweaked a few things. I love a process, and
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
was like, okay, I'll try this
This
on the
process isn't
baby.
working. I just need to adapt it
Yeah,
somehow. They're
yeah.
like, it's a baby.
Yeah, well, every baby's different as well, but whatever what she did worked, and he's slept ever since. And when I get sleep, I can function more. If he was
Yeah.
awake every hour, I don't think I would have been able to do my job.
No, no.
It would have been difficult. So that was a tick. I joke with the guys. I'm saying he was easier to train than some of you lot, but
Just
I
tweaked a
joke.
couple of processes and made
Yeah,
it
yeah,
the perfect baby. But
um,
that is tough, right? It's the sleep deprivation and that kind of thing.
yeah.
And are you,
Oh
out of interest,
God.
obviously, I've never had to take maternity off. I had 4 children, but
Yeah,
I've only ever taken a couple of weeks off. But
yeah.
did you think about work a lot?
I
Is it,
did.
or
Yeah.
is it quite obviously babies are consuming, but it's hard for me not to think about work. And I'm assuming as a
Yeah.
manager, you probably had the same issues. Oh, I don't know if it's like a guilt thing, but you can't not think about work.
Yeah, and because it was a really challenging time, that period that I went off, I
Yeah,
was
God,
also
that's a
like
tough one
concerned
last
and
year.
worried about like the team and the company as well. So, I mean, there are certain stages where you're so caught up in nappies and God knows what else that you've got no other option but to switch off. But I didn't delete Slack or my emails on my phone, so I would still,
Oh, really? You're
occasionally sort
still
of
on there?
click through and see what was going on. I mean, a guy in my team, he winds me up saying, "Oh, were you on Slack whilst you were in labour?" And I was like, "Oh, very gave it a day off." But
I did have one day off.
yeah, I didn't know. But I think it's just managing it, isn't it? I mean, I wanted to keep in touch. I think keeping in touch is a good idea if
Yeah.
you want to, depending where you are in your career. Like
It's hard, isn't it? Because you come with the pressure of telling someone, just from
yeah,
a devil's advocate point of view, you don't want to tell someone they can keep in touch because then they feel obliged to,
I know.
and then you don't want to tell them they don't keep in touch because they might want,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a minefield for managers.
Yeah, we set boundaries, and I was like, look, if X, Y, and Z were to happen,
Yeah.
definitely contact me. If
Yeah.
not, I'll drop you a message when I feel okay, and I'll be like, how's it going? And then
Right.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
let go.
And they just
Um,
download on you like 6 months
yeah,
worth.
yeah. And I'm like, oh God.
I wish I never asked.
Yeah. But you have kit days as well, which is really good. So
Yeah.
you've got like 9 or 10 days that you get fully paid for, and you can utilize that to sort of ease yourself in over a
Oh,
period
nice.
of time.
Bring the baby
And
in.
then I did once,
Yeah.
but he slept the whole time, thank God, which was good. Because at the time, he was quite new then. And then also they provide coaching. So there's a company called Tall Wall, and you can speak to like a maternity coach just to help you with any concerns. And
Oh, that's amazing.
speaking to someone outside of your circle is
Yeah, yeah.
also helpful, and someone that's been through it. So a lot of the ladies that have had children here have done that and found it really useful.
So what do they talk to you about? Just how you navigate it?
Yeah, how you navigate it, like how are you feeling? Some people, everyone's different, and like we said before, you could have real imposter syndrome about coming back. Like,
Yeah.
can I use that part of my brain again? Do I know how to work? Am I going
You've
to
been talking
juggle?
baby for 9 months.
Yeah, exactly. And you're thinking, I want to give 100%. Can I do that when I've then got my second job that starts when I get home, and are the hours going to be okay?
Yeah.
So, you talk about all sorts, and it's refreshing to speak to someone that's been through it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's smart. And
To
what
do it.
the company have done that as a
Yeah, it
just to
for
kind of
any
an added
lady
value.
with maternity. Yeah,
Oh,
you
nice.
can speak to a
So how
coach.
was it coming back? Because you did leave it like it's been a tricky year,
Yeah,
right? So you must be looking at
yeah.
home going, oh God, like you just need to step in.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I think I come back and I think the team and a few of the, in the bridging group were probably, morale was a bit low probably
Yeah, yeah.
because it had been really tough, and that's normal. We'd gone through a period where interest rates had been going up and up and up and up, house prices had been going down, exits were difficult. You're reviewing your criteria
Yeah, yeah.
and making sure the risk mitigants are in place to make sure you've got a sustainable business. Um, and then when you've got more entrants into the market as well doing bridging, you've got that risk of deal flow dropping. And I think a number of things can affect mood and morale. And
Yeah.
some people might think, oh, the grass is greener, and it isn't always greener.
We
Um,
do hear that a lot, and it's both on both the broking and lending world when they're like, well, we're not doing a lot of lending, or we're not doing this, and we have to like educate people and go, it's the market. No,
yeah, it's
no
the
one's
market.
60% up because you're 30% down. That's not how it
Great.
works.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. You have your highs and your lows, and you remain stable. And it's the social media aspect when everyone's like, "Oh,
Everyone's
we've had
smashing it.
the biggest month ever," and it can make others feel down. But I think we're all pretty much aligned in
It's
terms of,
difficult, right? Because you've got to celebrate your wins as well. If we have a really good, I
oh,
don't shy away
of
from it. I
course,
tell people we have had a shocking quarter, but
yeah,
we're doing really well at the beginning of the next quarter. And I'm
yeah,
really honest. Then people come up and go, "Oh, yeah, I see you're smashing it," and I go, "Am I? Are we? How'd
yeah,
you know that?" So what you mean is you see our social media posts, but we try. We're
yeah,
not.
yeah,
We're always really honest about it. We say we're struggling when we're not, but I think people see the amount you post as a success rather than what you're posting about.
yeah, definitely. I mean, um, a good way to sort of sense check that people are clearly happy here is their time that they've worked here. The guys in my team, for example, they've been here from, I think the minimum's 5 years and the highest is 10.
That's incredible. It's
And they've
incredible
been
now
there.
when you look at the average tenure is something like
Yeah,
2.3 years.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah,
that's changed dramatically over the last 10. That
yeah.
was up. That's dropped. It's nearly halved.
But you have to keep a sales team in particular engaged and hungry and wanting to go out and fight for the deals and
Yeah.
relationships, and you
Especially at
think
the
you've spoken
moment.
to.
It's just. I mean, it's the same for
Yeah,
every business. It's relentless
it's
because you're
relentless.
you're working doubly hard
Yeah,
for not the same amount of money. How do you
yeah,
motivate
definitely.
your team in these challenging times? Because we can't just keep saying keep going.
No,
That's not motivating. It's just not.
yeah,
How do you get through the challenging times? How do you motivate the teams and just kind of you got to constantly G them up, especially when you're
yeah,
feeling it too.
yeah, yeah. Of course. I mean, I'm pretty frank with them. We have frank conversations. I don't think you should ever sort of be fluffy with what you're trying to say. Yeah, times are a bit difficult in the whole market at the moment,
Yeah.
and yeah, we've got big targets to meet. How do we do that? Well, we're never going to be as cheap as the banks. That's been the case forever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
like,
exactly. That's
we
not
need to
new.
reduce, yeah, we need to reduce the rate. Well, that's not an option at the
Yeah, yeah,
minute. So then you start thinking, oh, so how can we be more attractive? So we've got them raring to go at the minute because we've just launched quite a few bits and pieces. We've got AVMs going, we've removed the signature from the application, we've got dual rep,
yeah.
we've got a really good refurb product which we're really good at, dev exits, and so we've got really good, strong products that we can push at the moment.
AVM
Um,
to me is nuts. How that's changed the market technology-wise, that you
You
haven't.
sort of have to have it now,
You're
don't you?
lending on a property you've never seen, which always
Yeah.
is. I mean, it works, so doesn't it? You know, it's only in a couple of scary
Well,
cases, but
that it depends what your metrics are on the AVM, right? So
yeah,
we're not going too mental on that. It has to be, solely residential up to a certain loan size and a certain loan to value. So
yeah,
you can sort of, looking at all of the data that our credit guys do, it'd be pretty much in line with what
well,
what
yeah,
what
we'll
it's
be
going to be
manually.
at the exit. We're not sort of allowing, £3 million house to go on a 70% loan to value AVM or crazy like that, So it's within reason. But
Yeah,
also we have, weekly team meetings, and I get everyone to talk. It's not me just talking at them. It's like, right, what have you been doing in your area? Who have you been meeting? What's the feedback? What do we need to do? What product innovation can I look at? And then also one-to-ones.
yeah.
Everyone is different. I think it's good to have a mix of personalities in a sales team, because if everyone was the same, it just wouldn't work.
With
So
one-to-ones, because funny enough, I've got mine today with my team, so I will
yeah,
nick some information. But I'm not.
yeah,
I
do
don't
it.
think I'm great at them. I think I'm very much. I read a couple of years ago, and I've always stuck to it. Brushing your teeth every day as opposed to root canal, right? So every day, I have this chat with everyone.
Flossing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Better to do that. But I think the one-to-ones are a bit root canal. If you're waiting for your one-to-ones, when you're not doing the daily check-ins. But having said
Yeah,
that, I do think my one-to-ones drop because
yeah,
it's difficult because my one-to-ones are basically how are you doing. Like I want to make sure you're
yeah,
okay because we've gone through the shitty stuff all month.
yeah.
I know the deals and stuff, and I know we can't do that forever growth-wise. But talk to me about your one-to-ones, about how you like get the best out of them.
Yeah. So the one-to-ones were more regular when I first come back to work.
Yeah,
But then, like you say, you don't need to have them all the time, and it's in there. If you've got anything to raise and you want to talk, I'm all ears and we can go through it. Otherwise,
yeah,
we're busy doing other stuff and you've got meetings and you're here, there, and everywhere. We don't need to have it. But it's,
yeah,
you've got that comfort blanket if we do need to chat about anything. It's in there, and I think everyone's different. Everyone's on different career journeys. You might have someone that's quite happy where they are and they're plodding in that role. You've got other people that want to go to the next step, and how do they get there? And do you have that option for them to grow into that role here at this time?
yeah.
And you have to go through that.
I
And it's a
suppose, yeah,
really
because we always can't. I always think of it as like the negatives or the problems that can come to me all week, month, but they can't actually come to me in the middle of the month and say, "Oh, I'm thinking about wanting to grow in my career." So
yeah,
there
it's
is
a
some stuff
flagship.
you have to. I'll be like, "Cool, this is great timing." Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but but so you do have to keep your one-to-ones for that stuff, don't you? Like some big career stuff,
yeah.
making sure that they're being heard on the big stuff. I suppose that's a
Yeah.
good point.
I think another point as well, the main thing that gets discussed in our one-to-ones are criteria
Yeah,
and where we should be, where we need to be, what we could be doing, why aren't we doing this? And then, like you said when we were discussing earlier, that discussion point around the funding lines, because that part always changes.
yeah,
And I need to make sure I'm keeping them up to date on that, because Hugo and his team can't be having catch-ups with them
no,
regularly,
no,
so they'll use me to sort of flow that information in. And also from a credit perspective, we have to tweak something, I have to explain why, and we go through it, and then if they have a valid reason not to, I'll push back with them.
yeah.
So it can cover a variety of things, and it depends what stage you're at in that month, quarter,
And do you
week, I
do
guess.
that? Are they always in the diary then for months then, and then because like for instance we
Yeah,
didn't do one at the end of last one because we got such a big one because it's the end of the quarter. At the end of
yeah,
last one, we would just head down grafting. So I was like, I don't want to take half
yeah,
an hour out of everyone's day, so we just catch them when we
exactly.
can.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So, because we have the weekly meeting now, I actually took out the weekly ones, and I'm just figuring out if we put them back in as like bi-weekly and you have them as a question mark. But we're in the office together anyway, so
Yeah, yeah,
anytime you want to talk, like we can do it, unless it's serious, and then you're like, oh, do you
yeah.
want a one-to-one?
But then even then, like saving stuff for one-to-ones because if it's the third of the month and you're saving, all right, I'm pissed off about this. I'm going to
Yeah,
bring up my one-to-one.
yeah,
That's got 20 days to manifest into something that's completely
yeah,
probably
exactly.
over what it was when it started. So I always say to people, if there's any problems, please day one
Nip
it,
it in the
day
bud.
one it to me,
Yeah,
yeah, because it might
yeah,
be a genuine problem that we need to fix, but
yeah,
you can guarantee if it's about another person or if it's just something that just kind of everything they do for the next 28 days until you're that one-to-one is going to echo 10 times stronger. So it's got to be, you got to solve problems quickly.
And the thing is as well with one-to-ones, they're pointless if you're not giving sort of a clear vision, strategy, goal. Otherwise, you're just talking nonsense for an hour and you've wasted everyone's time. And you could have just been selling some other loans then. But instead
Yeah,
you've
you
been
should have
talking
been working.
about what holiday you're going on and
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't want to waste people's time. I need,
yeah,
if it's half an hour of their time, I value their time. So I want them to know that. So it's not just me waffling about KPIs.
exactly. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they love KPIs.
everyone loves. I actually love KPI.
I do love KPIs.
I love it because I want to get better, and you can't. If I just said to the team, "You're doing really well, try and do better,"
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
bullshit. How do you get better? It's like saying to people, "Do more social media." It's like
Yeah.
it's the worst thing you can say to them because they're like, "What does that mean? I don't do any." So give me just
Or
But if you
can,
target it and KPI it, then it's so much easier to go. This needs tweaking.
definitely. Or you can turn it around on them and say, what ideas do you have then to make it better?
Yeah.
And then usually it's like, oh yeah, maybe we should monitor that.
Yeah. That's right. Actually, yeah, You're making their one-to-ones harder today, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to talk in these. I'm going to say, you
Yeah,
tell me
yeah.
what we need to do. No, but I know they're useful, but I just think, and we're very blessed that we've got a very small team. I
Yeah.
suppose as your team gets bigger, it's harder. You probably need those things because you might lose people along the way if they're not particularly vocal or they're not
Yeah.
comfortable in a tapping on the shoulder type situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. I have kept you. I did say it'd be half an hour. It's going to 43 already, but I have got some more questions. So,
Yeah, go.
you're right to stay on.
Yeah, of course.
Good. So I know I touched on it before, but leadership in the business.
Yeah.
What do you think they're doing right? What is it that has made a successful team there? Could you put your finger on it and go, this is what they're nailing that other people aren't?
Yeah, so I think they've always been really good at creating a vision. They create a vision and they stick with it and they go with it.
Yeah.
It could be a disaster. It could not work out. But I feel like you have to, once you've got that vision, then you have to go with it. And then what comes from that is that they've been able to create change. And then what comes from that, you can keep people focused and they're aligned with what the goals are.
Yeah.
And then you're obviously asking for feedback constantly. So the hierarchy goes out the window. It's not as if we can't, you can't speak to Rod and Ian because the co-founder and the CEO. It's an open door policy, which is good, right? And Rod and Ian will make the effort, and they'll go around and speak to everyone in the office as well.
Do you know that is a massive factor when I speak to successful businesses about feedback? You've got to be able to take it. You can't be this ivory tower. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't like it?
Yeah.
Like, we thought of it.
Well, when he does the company update every month, and he updates the company on the exact position. This is where we are. Have we hit target? Have we missed it? Are we about here? And he's very honest. And I think that's what you need. He's transparent and he's honest with that.
Yeah.
But at the end, it's everyone's favourite. And he also goes through, these are the new joiners. These are the leavers. This is what we're doing in the culture part of the business at the moment. So it's really good. But the bit everyone looks forward to are the anonymous questions at the end. So you can imagine some
You
of
guess
the
who it
wild
is?
Yeah, and it's great fun watching Rod answer them. A lot
Yeah.
of the time it's like, can we get an office dog, or can you pay for our electricity?
What can you do for me? What else can you do for me? Yeah.
Yeah. But they take it on board. At that vision, they create it. They create change. They're people focused, and I think that's crucial. And then when you've got the leaders that are doing that, the managers then need to execute all of that as well to their team. So. Yeah,
Amen.
We try.
I genuinely believe that as well. I've seen in businesses some great leaders who have put in poor management, who don't echo what they do, and if you see it waterfall down from like great leaders are brilliant, and the managers, and it trickles down to make great businesses, but it's too easy to put in the wrong parts. We've actually we're really lucky in recruitment that we've taken people from other recruitment businesses because I know the owners, they're fantastic visionaries, and they put in knobhead sales managers, and then there's a disconnect. So you have to be connected to them, don't you? Obviously, it's helped that you work with them for years, but it's you're a direct reflection of your leaders, right?
yeah, that's what you should be. Yeah, for sure.
Good, good, good. So thank you very much for today, Leanne. I really appreciate it. If anyone wants to speak to you, anyone wants to speak to anyone at LendInvest, obviously all your socials will be on our socials when we get this out
Yeah.
for the marketing, etc. But what's the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah, so Leanne at lendinvest.com. Yeah, any short-term lending query you've got on bridging development, etc., please ping it over. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Good.
Recently married 2 years ago, so it was Leanne Smith. It's now Leanne Ardron.
Oh, I've got you. Excellent. That's like I said. I genuinely appreciate your time today. It's been really useful. It's interesting to hear
Yeah,
about the maternity stuff, especially from a management point of view,
yeah, yeah,
but also just the way the market is. I think we talked about this obviously off air, but I was excited to speak to you because you've been in the same role or you've been in the same business for such an amount of change that
yeah,
it's always useful to get those insights.
yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you
Thanks,
everyone for
David.
watching on what do they watch on YouTube and listening on Spotify. I will speak to you soon, Leanne. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.